let's talk to Benjamin in Alabama, who seems to have some evidence of God's existence. Benjamin, what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, I was going to call in. I talked to some of y'all last week, and they was daring me to call in about incest and the Bible and stuff. And so I thought about that, but then I'm like, nah. And so I decided to call in about God instead. And I was
okay. Well, tell us what you got.
So I was going to make a case that God is more likely, because of historical evidence, all the gods throughout history, polytheism and all of that stuff, that there's more likely, if not the Tristan God, there's still a God.
All right, you've got some historical evidence for God. What is it?
Well, I was going to use like the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and then Sumerian God text, Dead Sea Scrolls.
Let's start with just one of those. How does the existence of Egyptian hieroglyphics evidence that there is any God?
Well, a lot of the hieroglyphics depict people coming from the sky, visiting people, advanced technologies, knowledge given, advanced knowledge that was given to people. And then you also have like Horus and some of the other gods of Egypt that similar to the Greek gods and the Roman gods.
Sure. There's some perhaps covalent evolution there. There's perhaps some interactions there. But tell me how the existence of Egyptian hieroglyphics depicting God or depicting these sort of from their perspective sci-fi technologies is meaningfully different from modern day Spider-Man comics depicting the existence of, mutants and people with superpowers policing New York City. What's the difference between those two things?
Well, I would say that basically, well, I would say that there's a big difference between it because, like, for example, the magazines that have Spider-Man in them, or the comic books, I should say, that have Spider-Man in them, that's not, how to explain this? So that's not historical, throughout decades of having all these different characters, deities, talking about different things and giving knowledge to people and then having people in Egypt build pyramids and build all this other stuff.
So if we pick something that's older than like a modern Spider-Day comic and we look at the writings of like Jules Verne or Mary Shelley, and we see that for decades now, we have had people discussing these futuristic technologies, how is that different from people inscribing, information about Anubis on a temple wall in Egypt some 2 or maybe even 3,000 years ago, beyond that even?
Well, it's not, so I was going to combine that with the gods of Rome and the Greek gods, and because if you look at all of these deities, not even just all the deities, but all of the societies that throughout centuries have had different gods, even Sumerian. I was going to bring up Samaria and Mesopotamian even.
Right.
But
so that part of the argument is actually really interesting to me, Benjamin. I don't mean to cut you off, but we have spoken a little bit fairly recently, and so I want to really look at that form of rationality. When I ask you a question, you say that you don't, well, they're different, but how do I explain it? But, well, I guess, but I wanted to bring in these other things. And now we're just sort of adding on and adding on and adding on more and more claims, but we don't know if any of the individual claims are actually made up of accurate or useful information. Just because you have 500 things that could be true doesn't mean that you are any more accurate than if you have one thing that could be true. If you have one thing that is true, now we can really get somewhere. Now we can build an argument, because it's important that our arguments be built on things that are true, not on one thing or 500 things that could be true. So I really want to ask you, is there one thing, one piece of evidence from history or really from anywhere else that is true that demonstrates the existence of God?
People worshiping polytheistic societies throughout history.
Yeah, so people all around the world throughout history have come to different understandings of the possible existence or non-existence of God. That's just people talking, yeah? How does that evidence the existence of anything?
Can I just jump in here?
Please,
okay,
Jaimie.
Benjamin, first of all, I'm a little disappointed that you're still calling us. I was hoping you'd have a bit more introspection as to why you believe the things you believe before engaging again, but beside the point. By your criteria as to the existence, veracity, and power of God or Jesus, I can prove that wizards are real. Because all you're bringing is a number of books written after or around the time that these events are supposedly to have happened, describing unnatural things that couldn't possibly happen in the natural world, but giving a reasonable, internally logistically sound explanation. But I've just described the Bible and the Dresden Files. The proof you're giving me that Jesus was real and did miracles is the same proof I could give you that a man in a trench coat fired fireballs outside of the Shed Aquarium in 1997. Like, they're just stories on a page, man. And they have no more significance historically than anything that can't be corroborated with actual physical evidence.
Well, I was calling to make a case that a God, not necessarily that the God of the Bible, but just the God in general would be real. And so I figured I could use the hieroglyphics in Egypt and all the other historical monuments and statues and altars and stuff from different cultures.
Benjamin, what causes the common cold?
A virus?
Exactly. How long have we known that a virus causes a common cold? 200 years, maybe? 150?
Well, I would say
100?
Since early 1800s.
Okay, so 200 years max. I'm sure someone will fact check me. So let's say that human civilization's been going on for 6,000 to 10,000 years. Would that not then mean that the vast majority of humans that have ever lived were wrong about why they got coughs and sneezes sometimes?
Well, originally, why they used to say bless you when you sneeze?
Yeah, they were wrong because we know why it's caused.
Yeah.
And so you calling on antiquity, because there were other gods and because the Egyptians made pyramids and hieroglyphics and stuff, therefore some kind of god must exist. No, just humans are spectacularly good at being wrong because we're pattern matching machines, basic, very, very oriented around personal survival, and that our social evolution has far outpaced our biological evolution by orders of magnitude. We are dumb, hairless apes living in a world of emails and virtual reality.
Benjamin, when we hang up here in just a moment, my real hope is that you would walk away from this with at least one new understanding, which is that 500 things that are kind of true or could be true or might be true are not nearly as useful as one singular thing that is true. And to take something that you sort of half understand and pull from a million different baskets really just clouds the issue. And I don't mean to single you out for it. It's a really common, I mean, it's a common rhetorical device, but I think more likely it's just a common form of cognitive dissonance. It's something that we all do when we're trying to justify something that we already believe. We pull from all of these different things. You get into an argument with a friend or with your partner, and you know that you're wrong, but you don't really want to know it, so you don't really want to accept it, or you're just trying to convince yourself that you're not wrong. You'll find 500 things that your partner has done or said that you just want to kind of all drag into the argument. And it doesn't mean that the singular piece of the singular question on the table is still changed in any way. You know, I hope that you will find one piece of information that you feel meaningfully evidences God, and then question that. And if you still hold on to it after looking at that one thing, that you'll really examine it and then maybe give us another try. But you can't just grab at a million different things, throw them all into a blender and say, yeah, something in there's got to float to the surface. Something in there's got to be true, I guess. I hope that you'll really meaningfully consider that notion.
I enjoy interacting with you, Benjamin. You're a very reasonable person. But I'm going to start asking you, why are you calling? And if your answer is not sufficient, like there's a good reason for why you bothered to call, I'm going to start curtailing calls because you are better than this.
I hope that we've been fair. I hope that some of that sinks in. And I do really appreciate you wanting to engage with us on these issues. But I do, like Jaimie said, need you to dig a little bit deeper intellectually, emotionally, and just in your sincerity. And I do hope that we can have a meaningful conversation in the future.